For people who are having trouble, because there are many people, I would say probably men in general have more trouble with seduction than women, probably. But do you have, say, 3 tips for people who are having trouble seducing other people?
I don't know, I have 3. I have 2 that come to mind. Maybe a third will come to me in a few minutes. The first one is you have to be able to get outside of yourself. So, in this sense, seducing is very healthy. It means that normally where a lot of men go wrong, in particular, is they're thinking about themselves all the time. They're thinking, does she really like me? Am I really saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? I've got to try really hard to make sure that she actually likes me. And they're inside their own thoughts and their own world. And what they need to do instead, and this applies to women as well, is get inside the other person's world. That's the key to seducing them, to understand Michaela, her childhood, her needs, what she has and what she lacks in life, her weaknesses, her vulnerabilities, what will put a smile on her face, what will excite her. And so when you have that philosophy, you listen in a different way. You're listening to them with this kind of focus where you're picking up little cues that they say of things that excite them or repulse them, and you're kind of remembering them. And then later, days later, you say something that relates to something that they had expressed, and it reveals how deeply you were listening, and it's very seductive. Or you give them a gift that isn't necessarily expensive, but is tailored to something that they had said, some nuance that they had revealed in their conversation. It seems very personal. So getting outside of yourself and getting into the spirit of the other person is probably the most important thing of all. The second one, which is related to the first one, is to lose your defensiveness, to lose your defensive qualities, to be open to the other person, to being vulnerable to the other person. You know, a lot of people now in the world today are very defensive, and for good reason, because our lives are so stressful. We have so many things in our face, so many people bothering us, etc. And we kind of get really rigid and tight and defensive, and you can even physically locate it in our chest areas, etc. And the idea of being vulnerable, of opening up to another person, allowing them to have power over us, is actually frightening for a lot of people. But it's unnatural. It's not human, because we have a tremendous need to feel vulnerable, to feel open to the influence of another person, to have that electrical current going back and forth. And it stems from our childhood, where we were so vulnerable to the spirit of our father or our mother, and it delighted us, right? There was a kind of bond between us, like between a mother, that transcends, you're almost a part of her in some way. And so that need to feel connected and to feel vulnerable is very human. And what happens with a lot of people is, as they get older and they accumulate pain and hurts from broken relationships, is they don't want to be vulnerable anymore because they don't want to have to go through that. But that means that the person that broke your heart, that made you vulnerable, has won, has defeated you, has made you turn into something that you don't want to become. So you have to be able to feel that you can be vulnerable, right? And if you're a seducer trying to seduce someone, revealing to that other person that you have fallen under their spell is almost the most seductive thing you can do, because it's deeply, deeply exciting to feel that that other person is charmed by us, right? But in order to do that, you have to be vulnerable to them. So those are the 2 keys. If I could come up with a third, but
No, that was good.
I'm kind of slowing down here.